Okay, I'm here with Momo. This is the end of the session. This is Momo's roadmap to success. Now you see right there, she opened her mouth up. She's just now a little bit stiff. Yes, you are. There we go. See how the corners of her mouth are really far back? That's a sign of submission. She was sent to a board and train, and I'm pretty certain that they did some stuff that was kind of messed up down with teaching her the leave it cue and her kennel. Now board and trains, there are a couple good ones. Majority that I've heard about are not great ones. So like if your dog barks, they put it in a kennel and spray it with a fire hose till it stops barking. They teach you to leave it. They put something on the ground, the dog goes for it, they smack it. I wonder if that was going on with her because she will not. I was trying to do a couple exercises with her, stuff on the floor, and she just wouldn't have anything to do with it. Now you see how she's breathing a little heavy? We just did give her a walk, but she wasn't breathing like when we came in. I think she's a little stressed. So we'll give her this, put it there, and we'll let her get up if she wants to do whatever she wants to do. And if she wants to sit here and chew it, that's great. I'm not going to pet her. I'm just going to let her kind of do her thing. So because of the board and train, and she went to the board and train because she pulled one of her guardians down on a walk. He had a long line, and there's just a couple of maybe tactical errors. And so we all want the easy, fast, that's life. But there's no jacket that I could put on that makes me an accountant. I have to learn, be good with math, and be educated and all that fun stuff. If you want to teach your dog to walk with a loose leash, you have to train him. It's not hard to do. It just takes practice. But no, the prong collar, I promise you, is going to create a much worse problem. She went there with a problem of pulling on a leash. Now she has some fears, phobias, reactivity towards people, and a lot of problems that we didn't have before. So we'll talk about how we debunk them, but just if you're thinking about, if you have a dog, especially a puppy, never send a puppy to board and train. Your puppy should be learning from you when it's that and bonding with you. And you can train a dog its entire life. You can only develop social skills, confidence, and that early confidence and social skills, I guess what it is, when they're young. The older they get, the harder it is. So what I did to set her up for success is I called ahead, made sure that she couldn't see out in the street. And then I laid a treat trail. At first, the treats were about 6 inches apart for the first 4. Then they came about 1 foot apart. Then they became about 1.5 feet apart. Then when they got closer to me, they started getting back closer to about 6 inches. She went straight up, licked all of them, came right up to me, held a treat out and let her lick it. So what I did is I was sitting on your neighbor to your left outside your door. So if somebody's going to meet her for the first time, if they come into your house, they're invading her space. If I'm sitting down, we're outside, there's a lot of distractions. She's getting all these tasty treats as she's coming up, so she's in a pretty good mood, and she's choosing to come up. If the dog doesn't want to get the treats, that might be the way of saying, I don't feel comfortable. I like the treats. If you know your dog likes a treat and won't take it, that's an indication they're uncomfortable. You should always allow them to move away or encourage them to move away from whatever they're fearful of. So basically, she came up to me with a treat trail. Now, if she's coming to me, I like the dog to approach from this angle. So I'm facing this way. She came up, and I went like this. I did not turn and look at her because eye contact for dogs you don't know is a challenge. And I had my palm up with one treat on it. She licked it up. I left my hand there. She licked it up and then went, and she went back to me. Did I miss some? Well, now she's smelling me again, getting a secondary contact. I do that a couple times. Now, if you're watching this video and when you're doing this exercise with her, she kind of freezes or she won't take the treats from you, you just throw the treats on the ground. And we always think of getting the dog to come closer and closer to us. Every once in a while, I throw the treat farther away on the other side of the dog so the dog has to move away. That lets a lot of dogs go, this is intense for a lot of dogs. We don't think about it because if we do it right, the dog just looks, you're just walking up to somebody. Well, for me, I'm single. Walk up to a pretty girl that I want to ask out, that's intimidating for me. That takes a lot of energy out of it. And same thing for dogs. Any sort of intense experience is going to be taxing. So basically, once I'd given a couple of treats, then I had the guardian call her away. When I stand up, I become more authoritative. So I didn't want to stand up with her right there. So you could either throw a treat or the guardian calls her away, you stand up, and I give her a treat again right away just to let her know, just because I'm standing doesn't mean anything different. You're getting a lot of treats. And she doesn't have to do anything for this exercise. If you ask her to sit, that's good to see if she's comfortable enough to sit, but if she doesn't sit, there's nothing wrong with just free treating her. Just like if somebody's uncomfortable, your shoulder rub, if they're a loved one, it helps them feel comfortable, we're gonna do what we can. So after that, then we got up and we walked, maybe just 1 or 2 houses. And every once in a while, I was giving her a treat or asking her to sit and give her a treat. We're incorporating a little bit of motion. We're not going in the house right away. And if she wants to do a little bit of business, great. I usually would not recommend a person coming inside until she will take a treat, actually at least with them there, but preferably get out of the person's hand or the person drops the treat and she gets it. So then as we come inside, I would, your gate that we shot the video above, do that on either side of the gate. So outside the gate, give her a treat, open the gate, walk in and give her another treat. Walk down the door to the house, Give her another treat, walk in and give her another treat immediately. Make sure you get that second treat immediately as soon as you come in. And when you come inside, there's some dogs will be cool with you. As soon as you come inside, ooh, it's different. So we want to carry that momentum over, and that's why you have the treat in your hand. As soon as you walk through the door, boom, put it in the dog's mouth. And if she won't take it then, she's saying you being inside is making me a little uncomfortable. So then we're going to allow her to move away, and the person should be very passive. The more that I try to pet her and encourage her that I'm a good person, if she's fearful, it's going to be amplified. So the best thing you do with a fearful dog is just be completely aloof and disinterested. Even if the dog comes up and sniffs you, don't reciprocate with the pet. Sometimes it takes a lot of courage for her to come up. Let her have that courage and walk away. And then her mom can scratch your butt or give her a treat. And mom is a comfortable figure. And that'll make her more likely to come back to you because you listened to what she was saying. And you didn't do anything that she didn't like. I'm not going to go in the same order that I did in the session because this transitions really nicely into dog cutoff signals. So I do a lesson where I basically have people reach over the dog's head, and the dog kind of ducks their head, looks up, turns their head to the side, their ears rotate back, or they kind of do a combination of all those things. Those are cutoff signals. We have cutoff signals. If we're, see some guys doing solicitations, you're at the beach, they start walking, dude, I'm good, I'm not interested. And that's a cutoff signal, it's pretty obvious. If you're in an elevator and somebody's staring at you, you might turn away from them, you cross your body. We have cutoff signals for humans, dogs have cutoff signals as well. So again, lowering the head, turning away, eyes getting big and unblinking, ears rotating back, licking the lips, baring the teeth is a pretty obvious one. Combination of ducking the head, turning away, looking away. Staring, that's not a cutoff signal, it's just an uncomfortable body mechanic. Refusing to look at you, or what we call side eye, we call it whale eye for dogs. Refusing to come to you, or refusing to sit, those are all signs of a lack of consent. So if I go to interact with a dog and the dog gives me a cutoff signal, I stop trying to interact with them. Just like if I'm trying to ask a woman if she'd like to go out and she gives me a cutoff signal, my job is to be respectful, listen to what she said, and walk away so she doesn't feel like I'm hassling her because she's already made herself clear. Lesson I have to learn all that that I deal with all the time when I'm asking girls out. All right, so basically, the next thing I want to talk about were dogs' body language. I talked about in the video above quite a bit, but basically what I'd like you to do is get in line with your dog's neutral body language. So when your dog is calm and relaxed, you're at home, there's no stimulus, there's no guests, she just feels relaxed. How is she holding her mouth open? Where are her ears positioned, front and back and to the side? What do her eyes look like? What are her pupils, the size of her pupils? So I look at the head first, then I look at the overall body. I mean, this is not necessarily in any order, just compartmentalize one of these sections at a time. Is the dog wiggly and jiggly, which dogs normally are, or are they stiff and still? Stiff and still is not a comfortable body mechanic for dogs. Moving slow, not a comfortable body mechanic for dogs. Then I look, is the dog leaning towards something or leaning away from things? Are they holding their breath, breathing normally, or, and then I'm looking at the tail. And we talked about the tail quite a bit in the video above, but she has a tail that kind of just comes down and then swirls out at the end. That's a normal tail. If she's wagging the tail, we'd like to see it in the middle, parallel with her spine. If it's up, especially if it's up, straight up and it's stiff or just quivering, those are kind of, I'm alert, I'm a little concerned about what's going on. Doesn't mean she's gonna be aggressive, but she's not in that mode. Gotta remember to talk about the leaf blower, we'll talk about that in a sec. So if it's down between her legs, she's trying to cover her anus so we can't discover that she's fearful. And so the lower or more tucked it is, the less fearful the dog is, that's okay. And the more up and out it is, the more relaxed, generally speaking, unless it's go really high up. So I want you to get you in a habit of checking out those parts of your dog's body when she is calm and relaxed at home. Once you have a good feel for the head, the ears, the eyes and all that, the tail and how it moves and all that, when she's just relaxed, then when your kid or your partner comes home, watch her tail. How does it wag differently? And now that's happy tail, because we know that she likes her. What does she do with her mouth? What does she do with the eyes and ears and all that fun stuff? So then you get a difference between neutral is like the tail looks like this, happy the tail looks like that. So we want to do that one. And then when we're on walks, we start watching, oh, tail's going in a little bit. She's a little uncomfortable. What's new? Oh, there's a dog over there. There's a leaf blower. The exercise we just did downstairs or when we were at the park, we were not doing a great, it was because of timing we mustered through, but they were mowing the lawn there. There's a guy blowing a leaf blower outside. We filter that out, we don't think about it. For dogs, that can make them more anxious and nervous. Baby crying, construction, a truck beeping, guy revving his Harley. So if those things are going on, don't try to meet new people at that time. Don't try to work on things because it's already challenging. We don't need to make it more difficult. And so wait for that thing to pass, then come back and do it. Sometimes it's going to ruin it. So you're going to want to meet a dog, and there's a guy with the leaf blower. You get really mad at the leaf blower guy. He's just doing his job. So just remember, life is a long journey. We have many opportunities to practice this. And that's really what my whole deal is. I want to have a holistic approach so that people kind of see and understand their dog. A lot of my clients, before I work with them, they look at their dog's behavior as a nuisance and just something that they want to go away from. I help them understand why the dog is offering those behaviors. And when you figure that out, then you're looking at it through humanity and with empathy, and then you can understand that the dog's not doing it personally, because that's how we take it. Oh, dog intentionally is ruining my picnic. No, I'm scared. I'm scared to death, so I'm barking, I'm whining and whimpering because I'm just emotionally fraught. So if you start seeing it that way, you have a deeper relationship with your dog, and your dog recognizes and understands that you're listening to me. Just like with a partner that doesn't listen to us, after a while we don't stay with that partner because they're not taking care of our needs. So our job is to make sure that she feels comfortable, confined, and confident, and that I'm going to manage the situation so she doesn't have to. All right, so that's body language. So get in the habit of doing that, and do that with your family. Ask your son, what does that tail mean? And kids are sometimes get better at this than we are, but after a while you're kind of quizzing, and that's some of my instructors do a great job. They ask their puppy class parents because they're not expecting it. They're just going to be taught, no, I have to answer questions. Well, I'm going to pay more attention to class. So you get your son paying more attention to the dog's body language and all that fun stuff. Okay, we started off the session by going over marker words. She has a clicker already, but we went over the marker word of yes. We did a loading exercise. Now, this is for you now, because by the time you see this, you should have already done this. I'd like you to, she's going to be tired after I leave. And after she wakes up in about an hour or two, grab about 15 pieces of kibble, walk around your house. Yes, treat. Yes, take a couple steps. Yes, treat. We want to practice a lot of variety. Remember, don't say yes, and don't say overexcited. They hear inflection. Just say yes in a normal tone of voice. And she does not have to do anything. For the loading exercise, all we want to know is yes means the treat's coming. So you say yes, put the treat in their mouth. Now, when you're using the marker word, once we've loaded it, you only have to load it about 6 times. So maybe do that two more times today, 3 times tomorrow, and you're done loading it. Now we use the clicker or the marker word when she does things that we want. Now, technically, once your dog has done it, you don't have to, if you say sit and the dog sits, you don't have to say yes when the dog sits. My dogs are 10 and 7. I do it every time. It's very comfortable and confident when your boss or your lover or whoever it is makes it clear what they want you to do. That just makes life easier. So every time she sits, lays down, comes to you, gives you eye contact, we're going to say yes and give her a treat or a pet. Now, this is what I call celebrating. I celebrate generally, unless I'm doing out somewhere difficult, like out on a walk, I do the celebration just with a pet. But in our puppy classes, because there's distractions, we celebrate with reward, a treat. So basically, every time she comes to you, yes, and pet her under her chin. Every time she sits down, lays down, gives you eye contact, drinks her water, goes to her dog bed, drops an object, picks an object up. Anything that she does on her own, celebrating is rewarding when the dog makes a decision that we like, that we did not ask for. And we'd like you to use the word celebrate for each other. So I'm sitting here and she comes up and jumps on the bed and I'm not paying attention, I'm watching TV. Somebody says celebrate to me, I say yes and pet her. I don't even know what it was. Remember, you only have 2 seconds from the dog to do the action before you can say your marker word. After you say your marker word, you only have 2 more seconds to pet or give them a treat. So if somebody says celebrate to me, just say yes and pet the dog. Don't worry about reaching. Now these are, again, if the dog does something you want. And before I forget, when you say your marker word, don't say any other words for 5 seconds. Don't say, yes, oh, you're such a good dog, you're such a smarty. Which word am I listening for? I don't know. I don't speak English as a dog. If I hear yes and nothing else, there's no ambiguity. I know my butt hitting the ground is what you wanted, and you're giving me a pet, and that makes just clarity is confidence building. So celebrating is when she does things that we like that we don't ask for. The other side of the coin is manners. Manners is basically something we generally don't teach our dogs. We try to teach our kids all the time, but we don't teach dogs. When a dog comes up and she nudges you, paws you, or barks for attention, or if she is bringing you stuff and dropping dirty laundry, tell her to sit 1 time, provided she knows how to sit. She does. If she sits, say yes and pet her under her chin, and pet her as much as little as you want. And then you can go back to doing what you're doing. If you say sit and she doesn't sit, the more you say it, the less you mean it. Don't ask for it multiple times. Say sit once. If she doesn't sit, lean back and read your paper, type something, write a song, make some cookies, do whatever it is you want to do. What we're telling the dog is if I ask you to sit and you listen to me, you get a reward. And if you don't, you do you. I don't care. There's no punishment, unlike the board and train she went to. You can do what you want. So we're not going to erode her confidence. But she's still not getting the attention she wants, which motivates her in the next time. These are the two of the easiest things that I go over in my sessions that have the biggest return on investment for my clients if they do them. We have 1,000+ puppies in our puppy class who will come and sit in front of you. And if you don't start petting them, they'll resit and resit and resit, because in their mind, every time I sit, my parents say yes and pet me. So if I want a stranger to pet me, I should just go sit in front of them. That's teaching manners. Same way we teach children to say, "Hi, sir, it's nice to meet you." "Hey, fat man." That's a child without manners. Dog that jumps up, we haven't taught them. Jumping is a very normal behavior for dogs. They do that with each other. So they were like, "Oh, well, you're like us, I'll jump up on you too." We don't like that, and we give attention for that. Remember, all attention is rewarding for your dog. So saying, "No, don't do that," is pretty much the same thing as giving a treat. So what we want to do instead is we want to create scenarios where they can't really do the things that we don't want because they don't have access to it. And when they choose to do the things we want, we reward them. So manners is the watchword that I use for if the dog's demanding attention. Let's say she's jumped up on me and I'm petting her, not paying attention. Somebody comes over and says manners. What they're saying is, "David, I think you might have forgotten to ask Momo to do something first." Even if I did it right, I would tell her to sit, stop petting, tell her to sit. She sits, I say yes, pat her on the chin, and I say, "Actually, we were playing a game when we got done. I invited her to my lap, but thank you, because I do forget to ask her to do that from time to time." Don't argue about it. Just, it gives you another practice round. If you get in a habit of both of these things, and again, tell each other celebrate or manners, so you remember, in about a month and a half, you won't even think about it. Your dog walks up, you'll say yes and continue your conversation just like I did right there. That took no time. But every time you pet your dog, just about, it becomes a micro dog training session that increases the dog's respect for you as a leader, boosts their confidence because they're doing something they like, and helps them with basic training. It truly becomes a gift, but only if you do it a lot, so tell each other those words. We also went over dog consent, which we talked about. Those cutoff signals we already talked about. We also went over dog exercise and mental stimulation. Now, dogs burn almost twice as much energy on a walk by sniffing on the walk than not sniffing. When they're also sniffing on the walk, they're not looking for the dog or the skateboard or whatever it is. Now, the Guardian here, they went to a prong collar because she pulls on a leash a little bit. A little trick for that, have treats in your hand the entire walk. As soon as she looks at you, say yes and hold the treat out. And ideally, I mean, we could keep on walking, but if the dog stops, I stop. Because what we were walking and the dog looked at us, she said yes, the dog stopped, and we walked and we delivered the treat to the dog. Really, if I'm walking, and let's say this is Momo and this is me, we're walking, and Momo turns to look at me, I say yes, and she stops, I'm going to stop. I want her to practice coming back to me. I say yes and then get her a treat, and then we start walking, I pull out another treat. I have it in my hand ready to go. So every time she looks at me, I say yes, and if we're still walking, though we can both walk it together, I just want her to initiate effort coming to me. I don't want me to go deliver the treat to her. But the more she checks in with you, the less she's looking for the scary thing. That's a foundation for loose leash walking. I think we're going to come back and work on that in a future session. But right now we need to work on her confidence, and she just has some anxiety and trepidation because of the punishment methods that were used with the other trainer. And so a lot of these things, like I said, the petting with a purpose, all this stuff makes her feel comfortable. Now the Guardian walks her 3 times a day in short 10-minute walks, which is much better than a longer walk. I'd like her to get a little bit more exercise than that, but because she's reactive to other dogs, the Guardian walks really early in the morning. Now, another option would be put her in your car, drive north of Montana and up a couple streets and park. And that way, those neighborhoods, you really don't see very many dogs. And there's big, huge front lawns, which we don't have in the rest of part of Santa Monica. So for her, that makes her feel more comfortable because that space makes her feel more relaxed. So let her sniff on walks. I would have you do the find it game, but just because of the trainer, she just really gets unnerved when we throw stuff on the ground, because I think that's how they taught her leave it, is smacking her when she went for it. And so that's just one of the residuals and reasons why we don't like using aversive training, because it has unintended consequences that really the dog suffers for. Basically, let me see. There are other ways we can exercise our dogs. We can also play tug of war, which he likes to do. We can also play fetch. And the Guardian does this with up the stairs. Now, I like to have a cue anytime we're doing a repetitive action. So I'd show her I have a treat, and I would say like Jamaica or Mexico or Cabo or something that means something south. She runs down the stairs. When she gets to the bottom rung, you say yes, then she licks up the treat. Then you say like Mount Fuji or something where it goes to the top of the stairs, she runs up the stairs.
So now you can tell her, if you want to go downstairs and meet somebody, you say, you know, Mexico, she runs down the stairs, and then she goes to greet whoever it is. Or maybe there's a guest coming in and you don't want her to be meeting. You say, Fuji, and she runs up the stairs and waits at the top of the stairs. So it gives you a little direction. But this also is a nice way to burn energy. I call it the doggy stairmaster. Now just be careful because repetitive activities can be damaging in joints and all that fun stuff. The other thing we could do, provided, and I would have you run it by your vet just to make sure, but she seems fine with me mobility. She's old enough. You don't want to do it with puppies. But doggy backpacks are harnesses that have pockets on either side of the dog. So you can put bags of sand, bottles of water, or whatever it is. Now the dog is carrying weight on the walk, which makes the walk more efficient. One of these things you might want to look into. So those are physical activities and ways to burn energy. There's also mental stimulation. Now, right now, she's chewing a collagen stick from our friends over at Barkworthy. Oh, she finishes it. That's great. Chewing and licking release feel-good endorphins. So if you have a guest that she's stressed about, when she's stressed when a guest is here, give her a lick mat with cream cheese, yogurt, peanut butter smeared on it, and once she gets used to it, you can start freezing it. So the guest comes over, put suction cups on it, put it over there. The guest is here, I'm licking while the guest is here. I'm releasing oxytocin and serotonin, the feel-good hormones, while the guest is here, repairing them and making it a positive experience. Also, having things for dogs to destroy and shred is important. That helps them relieve stress. It's also a way of a little bit of a light exercise. One of the things I'd recommend you get is a Jolly Ball about that big. A Jolly Ball will be a plastic ball that will have a triangle off the side so the dog can pick that up and carry it around. That's okay, she can just get that, that's fine. And so this way, my dogs, the first thing I do is chew that triangle off. And then the ball is hollow, it's not pressurized. Then I just chew little pieces off. As long as your dog does not eat the plastic, giving them a designated toy to chew can be helpful. I come home, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I can go unleash it on this instead of being all jittery. All right, so I would look for a Jolly Ball. Let me see, there's other things we do mental stimulation. We can feed her out of a snuffle mat. The one that I like is the Runda snuffle mat. That's the one I showed you in that video. Flip it over so all the tassels are down, then flip it right side up, and then kind of drop the food from a height and it goes into the crevices. Now she's got to use her nose, find the piece of kibble, yes, and then lick it up and repeat that 200 times depending on how many pieces of kibble. That makes feeding like a short walk. So we have 3 short, maybe 10 or 12 minute walks. We have one game of doggy stairmaster fetch. We have another game of what else? Chewing something or destroying something. The idea is we want to get exercise or mental stimulation every 2 to 4 hours. We could also use it to set her up for success. We know we're going to meet somebody. Exercise her first. The Goldilocks amount. Don't overdo it. Just really went it down. And then make sure after exercise she has 10 minutes of rest and relaxation. If we're running around or we're in the car, that doesn't count. She needs 10 minutes to relax. Then we can take her on the walk or whatever the case may be. Remember, dogs have a distended stomach, and so if you don't want her doing a lot of activities, physical exercise with food in her stomach, about an hour afterwards. Okay, so the Guardian right now, because you sent the dog to a board and train, she can demonstrate and do some of the exercises that they've taught her, and for the most part, they seem to be okay. Sometimes I've seen dogs, they'll do it because they were punished to do it, but they really don't like doing it. But she seems to like doing this stuff, so that's fine. But I would like the Guardian to practice teaching her. She does spin and stuff, but we could teach her bang you're dead, or to back up on cue, or drop it, which would be a nice one to learn. So if you want to teaching those, let me know. Text me. David, I want to teach her to back up on cue. I can send a video to you just for that specific lesson. If you're training her, I like to train dogs about 2 or 3 times a day in short 1 to 2 minute training sessions, always ending on a good note. The last repetition is what they're going to remember the best and the brightest, so we want to make sure it's a positive memory engram. Okay, so that's exercise and mental stimulation, or I guess for mental stimulation, there's other things you can do. Get a Kong, fill it with peanut butter. She can lick that thing. Eventually we can put that in the, in the freezer. I usually have 1 or 2 of those in my freezers at all times, so if I have a guest come over, my dogs are a nuisance, I can give them the Kongs, they lay down and they're preoccupied, just like having your child draw something for your guest or something along those lines. Training is also a nice way to drain energy, like I talked about earlier. So maybe if you're teaching a new trick, maybe set a goal. Every week I'm going to teach you a new trick. Go to YouTube, find a trick, make sure it's positive. If you're not sure, send me the video and look at it. And then each week, every day, 2 or 3 times a day in 1 or 2 minute practices, we're working on bang you're dead for this. At the end of the week, hopefully you have that mastered. Just like us, when I learn a bunch of new skills, I sit up straighter, my chin is up, I feel better about myself. Dogs that learn more skills are more confident, and confidence is a wonderful insulation for insecurity. It also helps deepen the bond between the human and the dog. I'm following your cues. I'm being rewarded for doing so, and I feel better about myself because and the more tricks you have for your dog, the more things you can do to distract them. I'd also like to see the guardian try to incorporate a couple of premax. Premax principle means a less desirable behavior earns me more desirable behavior. So like if the dog's in the kennel and I want to let it out, I tell it to sit, and when it sits, then I open the kennel. I don't really want to sit. I want to be out of the kennel, but sitting in the kennel gives me the ability to go out of the kennel. Sit before I put the leash on you. Sit every street corner. For dogs, it mostly involves sit, but you can do it for other things as well. It's just I'm not creating through gaming right now. But dogs need to practice impulse control. So practicing some different things, I wouldn't practice leave it because, again, I'm very worried by the way that they taught that to her and the way that she was interacting in certain types of the session, I think gave me a strong indicator that there was a punishment method that she really doesn't like. So that one I'd maybe leave and we can go over other things later on. But I try to incorporate a couple rules. Now, right there, she just went to the kennel. Do you have that treat with you still? Grab one of those right on the floor. And then just, that reminds me, the kennels, the guardian here has these really nice kennels. They look awesome, but they're a little bit too small. For kennels, the dog should be able to lay down completely with extending their legs and have enough room, and they need to be able to stand up and then tilt their head up and not have their nose hit the top. So the kennel should be about this much. Right now, she's hitting the kennel when she's standing there. They're very nice looking kennels, but they're just too small, and that can create some issues. Now, right now, the guardian's throwing treats in there, and she's keeping her back legs out. Part of it might be because the kennel's not deep enough, but part of it might be I don't want to go in there. I have a video on force-free kennel training. I showed you when I was here, but if you want to go over that when you get the new kennel, let me know. I'm happy to share that with you as well. But again, it's just creating a positive association. And there you go. Now, there you go. It's great. So when we're kennel training, the first thing behind the camera, you guys didn't get to see it, but she was throwing treats in there. And then the dog went in on its own. So at first we throw the treats to lure the dog to go in, but then when the dog goes in there alone, we just say yes, and then we treat them afterwards. We don't need the lure. Now, when you're teaching a cue, there's 4 components. There's the cue, sit. There's the action, the dog sitting. There's the marker word, us saying yes, and then there's the payment, giving the dog the payment. When we teach a new cue, we don't say the cue. We actually do the first step, the cue, last. We just lure the dog until they're doing it easily. And when we do it easily, then we'd say sit, and then lure the dog into a sit. And so you shouldn't say the cue unless you're 90% certain we say the cue, the dog does the action. For her right now, she's panting a little bit in the kennel. This is hard. So message me, and I'm happy to share that video for you for the kennel, and that way you can help her feel comfortable and relax on it. The last little thing I want to go over and celebrate that, yes and pet. Yes and pet. Is stages or steps. The primary strategy that I use when a dog has a fear or phobia of something is I ask myself, how can I break it? Instead of we look at going and opening the door and letting it guess as one thing. It's actually multiples. I walk to the door. That's one step. Then I start reaching for the door. That's another step. I reach further. That's another step. I touch the door. That's another step. I unlock the door. Another step. I turn the handle. Another step. I open the door. Another step. Think about it like that. So if I want my dog to stay at the door, I go to the door, I tell the dog to sit, and I sit in a place where the door can open. And then I reach a little bit for the handle, and that causes a lot of dogs to get up because they're anticipating we're going for a walk. So I tell them to sit, and I reach this far. I don't reach and touch the handle here. I just go like this, pull my hand back, say yes, and give the dog a treat if it stayed in a sit. After doing this a couple times, then I reach a little further. Then I reach a little further. And eventually I'm touching the handle. Then I'm jiggling the handle. Then I'm turning the handle. But if the dog gets up, I ask for too much criteria. We're teaching the dog the behavior we want them to do, which most people do not do for their dogs. And we're breaking up in small steps, just like we do with kids. You learn addition, next time you learn subtraction, then multiplication, then division, and then they start working in concert together. With a lot of dogs, we just put them in a situation where like, let me teach you now. That's the worst way to learn. Emergency is not the time to practice, and practice is not emergency. So when she has difficult with things, I'd like you to ask yourself, how can I break them into a small step and help her practice that first step over and over until she's confident with it? Then we'll go to the second step. Then we'll go to the third step, and so on. And eventually we get to the point where we do all the steps, and then you start combining the steps together. All right, now my clients who get the best results, the video that we watched, that we did here is a summary of all the stuff. Now you can have, if you have any questions, text me, don't wait. But what I invite you to do is watch this video as a family once a week until when you watch this video, you get to the whole end and you're like, there's nothing new that we haven't already accomplished. At that point, fingers crossed, Momo's problems are gone. If not, let me know. We can come back and work on her fear and phobias. I'm hoping I'll see her in a couple weeks, and we'll start working on loose leash walking so she doesn't have to, the Guardians have given up the prong collar, thankfully, but we want to make sure that they also achieve the loose leash walking that we're looking for. Now remember, loose leash walking means I've learned the skill. If I learned the skill of how to drive my car and a bee suddenly starts flying around the car, it's going to erode my driving skills. So if she's on a loose leash and suddenly a squirrel or a dog comes, that might erode that temporarily because of the emotional response. So I just always want people to understand that. Sometimes we think of dogs as like slaves that are perfect and like you can't make any deviation. Life happens. Stuff is going to happen and can be off course. The goal of life is to get back on course. Momo, puppy, puppy, puppy. Well, this is my buddy Momo. Well, actually, I'm going to go over one other thing. So I don't like to say no to dogs. What I did there is I made a kissing sound that said puppy, puppy, puppy. So, down? Yes. So if a dog is about to get into trash or something, remember all attention is rewarding. So if Momo, we'll get her and go, I'll wait for her to stop looking at me. Now she's breathing heavy, makes me worried. But if she's not looking at me, I go, boop. Yes. So what I just did there is called a positive interrupter. Thank you for those kisses. So positive interrupter, all attention is rewarding. So the dog gets in the trash, I say, no, Momo, no. Also, I'll get in the trash to get your attention. I don't think about that calculated, but that is what actually happens. What I do instead, thank you, Momo, is if she's sniffing the trash, I make that kissing sound. When she looks at me, I say Touch, which is her word, and I do the chop, and she runs away from the trash can and touches her nose to my hand. I think it's safe to say we're buddies. Now I've positively interrupted her without giving her attention. She came over to me and touched her nose to my hand, so she increased distance from whatever that was. I rewarded her for touching her nose to my hand. Then I'm going to give her a bully stick. I'm going to take her for a walk. I'm going to do some training. Do something else. Otherwise, she's going to go right back to the trash. This is how I interrupt things. Now, it won't probably work to dogs out on a walk because that's a much more complex and intense emotional response. But in the house, if she's about to do things, instead of giving her attention and training her to get in the trash, try to use that positive interrupter. Considering that the Guardians, we were worried about how she would behave when I met her, if we'd be able to even do this session, I think it's pretty safe to say that I got some tricks of the trade that worked pretty well. Well, this is my buddy Momo, and this is Momo's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.